Tonight, you'll uncover a secret Buddhist monks have used for centuries, quieting the restless mind to find deep, restorative rest. I'm sharing 10 Zen stories tales that helped millions hush racing thoughts and drift into their most peaceful sleep. Each holds a hidden key to unlock your mind's natural ability to let go of stress and worry. What makes this different from ordinary sleep meditation? It works even if you've never meditated, even if your mind chatters non-stop, even if you've tried everything else to rest. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without tonight." You'll learn what that means and how to wrap that peace around you now. As we walk through these tales, you'll notice tension soften in your shoulders. Spinning thoughts will slow like leaves on a calm stream. Soon, you'll sink into profound relaxation, like coming home. Get comfortable now. Adjust your pillow. Let your body grow heavy against the bed. Breathe in through your nose and out, asterisk, as you exhale. Know, this is your first step to the quiet rest your mind and body need. Let your breath stay slow. Now inhale soft, exhale even softer, like the wind brushing through bamboo leaves at dusk. Tonight's first story starts with a young monk named Kenji, who lived in a small temple tucked away in the hills of Japan. Kenji was a careful boy, the kind who folded his robes just so each morning, who swept the temple steps until not a single leaf remained, who handled everything in his care as if it were made of glass. He thought that to be a good monk, he had to be perfect, to never make a mistake, to never lose or break anything. That's the way his mind worked, tight like a knot in a string, always holding on, always afraid of letting something slip one evening. After the sun had dipped below the mountains and the temple was quiet except for the crickets' soft chirping, Kenji was carrying a wooden bowl to the kitchen. It was his favorite bowl, not because it was fancy. It was plain, carved from a single piece of oak, with a small crack along the side that had been mended with wax, but because it had belonged to the temple's old abbot, who had taught him how to meditate. Kenji held the bowl with both hands, his fingers wrapped around it tightly, his shoulders hunched a little, like he was carrying a secret. He walked slowly, step by step, watching his feet so he wouldn't trip. But then, just for a second, he looked up. He saw the moon, bright and round, hanging low in the sky, and he thought, how beautiful that is. In that tiny moment of distraction, his foot caught on a loose stone in the path. He stumbled forward, and before he could catch himself, the bowl slipped from his hands. It hit the ground with a soft crack, not a loud crash, but a quiet sound that felt like a knife in Kenji's chest. He fell to his knees, his hands shaking, and picked up the bowl. The old mend had split open, and now there was a big, jagged crack running from the rim to the bottom. The bowl was broken. It couldn't hold water anymore. It couldn't be fixed. Not really. Kenji sat there on the dirt path, the broken bowl in his lap, and he felt tears well up in his eyes. He thought, I've failed. The abbot trusted me with this, and I broke it. I'm not a good monk. I'm careless and stupid, and now everything is ruined. His mind raced, going over and over the moment if he hadn't looked up, if he'd walked faster, if he'd held the bowl tighter. He felt his chest get tight, like he couldn't breathe, and his hands started to sweat. All he could think about was the loss. The bowl was gone. His chance to be good was gone, and there was no way to get it back. Just then, he heard a soft voice behind him. Kenji. It was the abbot, the old man who had given him the bowl. The abbot walked over slowly, his sandals scraping gently on the path. He knelt down beside Kenji, and he didn't say anything at first. He just looked at the broken bowl, then at Kenji's tear-streaked face. Finally, the abbot said, "Tell me, Kenji, when you were carrying the bowl, what did you feel?" Kenji sniffled. "I felt scared. Scared I would drop it. Scared I would break it. I held it so tight, my hands hurt." The abbot nodded. "And now that it's broken, what do you feel?" "More scared, sad, like I've messed up everything." The abbot reached out and touched Kenji's hand, the one that was holding the bowl. His hand was warm and rough from years of working in the temple garden. "Look at your hand, Kenji," he said. "When you held the bowl tight, you were holding onto fear. You were so busy worrying about losing it that you couldn't even enjoy carrying it. You couldn't even look at the moon without feeling guilty. And now that it's broken, what's different?" Kenji frowned. "The bowl is broken. I can't use it anymore." "The bowl is broken," the abbot said, "but you are not. The bowl was just a thing. It was wood and wax. It didn't have feelings. It didn't care if it was whole or broken. The only one who is suffering right now is Yubi, 'cause you're holding on to the idea of the bowl being perfect, of yourself being perfect. You're clinging to something that's already gone, like trying to hold water in your hands. The more you squeeze, the more it slips away." Kenji looked at the abbot. He didn't understand at first, he thought. "But it's my fault. I broke it. I should be sad." The abbot smiled softly. "Sadness is okay, Kenji, but suffering is a choice. Sadness is like a rain shower. Comes, it waits you, and then it passes. Suffering is like standing in the rain and refusing to move, even when there's a roof right beside you. You're choosing to hold on to the pain, to let the broken bowl take over your mind instead of letting it go." He took the broken bowl from Kenji's hands and held it up to the moon. The light shone through the crack, making a thin silver line across the bowl. "Look," the abbot said, "even broken, it's still beautiful. The crack doesn't make it ugly, just makes it different. And now you don't have to hold it tight anymore. You don't have to be scared of dropping it. Your hands are free. Your mind can be free, too." Kenji looked at his hands, now empty. He realized they were free. He didn't feel the tightness in his fingers anymore. He didn't feel the weight of the bowl or the fear of breaking it. He sat there for a minute, just breathing, and he looked up at the moon again. This time, he didn't feel guilty. He just felt it, the cool night air on his face, the sound of crickets, the light of the moon. It was beautiful, and he didn't have to hold on to it. He could just be with it. The abbot stood up, and he held out his hand to Kenji. "Come," he said. "We can make a new bowl tomorrow, or we can use a different one. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you don't let a broken bowl break your heart." Kenji took the abbot's hand and stood up. He left the broken bowl on the path. He didn't need to carry it anymore. As they walked back to the temple, Kenji felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: lightness. His mind wasn't racing anymore. He wasn't worrying about the past or the future. He was just walking, step by step, with the abbot under the moon. "Now, I want you to think about Kenji's bowl. What is your bowl? Is it a mistake you made today? Something you said that you wish you could take back? A task you forgot to do? A promise you didn't keep? Is it something you lost a job? A friend? A dream? Is it a fear of the future? What if I fail? What if I get hurt? What if things don't go right? Like Kenji, you might be holding on to that bowl so tight that your hands hurt. You might be replaying the moment it broke over and over in your mind, feeling sad or guilty or scared. You might be letting that broken thing take up all the space in your head, so you can't even see the moon, the small, beautiful things right in front of you. But here's the truth: the abbot knew the bowl was never yours to keep forever. Nothing is. Everything changes. Everything breaks. Everything ends. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the way life is. Like the seasons. Spring comes, then summer, then fall, then winter. You don't hold onto summer and cry because it's gone. You let it go. And you look forward to the crisp air of fall, the snow of winter, the new flowers of spring. Your broken bowl might feel like the end of the world right now, but it's not. It's just a change, a chance to let go of something that was holding you tight, something that was making you scared, a chance to feel your hands, your mind free again. Take a deep breath in now. And when you exhale, imagine letting go of your bowl. It doesn't matter what it is, just picture it in your hands, and then let your fingers open. Let it fall to the ground, gently, like Kenji's bowl. You don't have to pick it up again. You don't have to carry it anymore. Feel that lightness in your hands. That's your mind starting to relax. Feel the space in your chest. That's the fear, the guilt, the sadness, making room for something softer, something calmer. Kenji learned that night that peace isn't about never breaking anything. It's about not letting the broken things break you. It's about looking at the crack in the bowl and seeing the moon shine through, instead of just seeing the damage. It's about letting go of the shoulds. I should have been better. I should have done more. I should have held on tighter. Just being here. Now, with what is right now. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to hold on to anything. You just have to breathe. In and out. In and out. Your mind can slow down. Your body can relax. The broken bowls of your day can wait. They don't need your attention right now. All you need to do is be here with the sound of this voice, with the quiet of your room, with the gentle rise and fall of your breath. That's the first secret, the first key, letting go. Not letting go because it's easy, but because it's kind to yourself. Kind to the part of you that's been holding on so tight for so long. You don't have to carry it anymore. Tonight, you can rest. Keep that breath soft, like a thread of smoke curling up from a quiet incense stick. No rush, no force, just gentle, steady movement. Let the lightness you felt from letting go of Kenji's bowl stay with you now as we walk to another temple, this one older, with walls worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. It's in a village called Jiaozhou, and here lives a Zen master known simply as Jiaozhou. He's an old man with a beard that's gone white at the edges and eyes that crinkle when he smiles, eyes that see right through the busy, tangled thoughts people carry around. Like bags full of stones, people come to Jiaozhou from all over asking for answers. They want to know about life, about death, about enlightenment, that big, scary word that sounds like something you have to climb a mountain to find. But Jiaozhou never gives them the answers they expect. He doesn't talk in long, complicated sentences. He doesn't tell them to read thick books or meditate for hours. Most of the time, He just says one word, yes or no. Sometimes he laughs. Sometimes he points to a tree or a cup of tea or the ground at their feet. And the people, they usually leave confused at first, like they've been handed a puzzle with no picture on the box. But later, when they're walking home, or sitting by the fire, or lying in bed, just like you are now, something clicks. They realize Jiaozhou wasn't being tricky. He was trying to wake them up. One day, a young scholar comes to the temple. He's dressed in fine robes, with a scroll tucked under his arm. He's spent years studying the teachings of the Buddha, memorizing every word, every verse. He thinks he knows a lot, maybe too much. He stands in front of Jiaozhou, straight-backed, and says, "Venerable teacher, I have come to ask you a question. It's a question that has troubled all the scholars in my village. Tell me, does a dog have the Buddha nature?" Now, the Buddha nature is the idea that every living thing has a little piece of peace and wisdom inside them, a spark of the same light that the Buddha found under the Bodhi tree. Most teachers would say yes, right away. Of course, a dog has Buddha nature, they'd say. Everything does. But Jiaozhou just looks at the scholar, tilts his head a little, and says, "No." The scholar's mouth drops open. He stares at Jiaozhou like he's just said the sky is green. "No," he repeats. "But all the sutras, all the holy books, say that every living being has Buddha nature. How can you say a dog doesn't?" Jiaozhou doesn't argue. He just smiles and says, "Sit, have a cup of tea." The scholar sits, but he's not calm. His mind is racing, like a horse that can't be stopped. He sips his tea, but he doesn't taste it. He's too busy thinking about how wrong Jiaozhou is, how he's going to go back to his village and tell everyone about this strange old Zen master who doesn't even know the basic teachings. A few days later, another traveler comes to the temple. This one is a farmer with calloused hands and mud on his boots. He doesn't know any sutras. He can't read, but he's seen hard things, droughts that killed his crops, a child who got sick and almost died, and he's tired of feeling lost. He stands in front of Jiaozhou, his hands clasped loosely in front of him, and says, "Teacher, I don't know much, but I've been wondering, does a dog have the Buddha nature?" Jiaozhou looks at the farmer, same as he looked at the scholar. Same soft eyes, same gentle smile. And this time, he says, "Yes." The farmer blinks. "Yes," he says. "Even a dog, the same as me." Jiaozhou nods. "Even a dog, the same as you." Now, if you were listening from the sidelines, you'd be confused too. First, no, then yes. How can that be? Is Jiaozhou just making things up? Is he playing a game? But let's sit with this for a minute. Just like Jiaozhou told the scholar to sit with his tea, let's let the confusion soften instead of fighting it. The scholar asked the question because he wanted to win. He wanted to hear the right answer, the one that matched what he'd memorized, so he could say, "See, I was right. I know the teachings." His mind was stuck in a box. If A is true, then B must be true. If the sutras say X, then Y can't be den. He was so busy trying to fit Jiaozhou's answer into his own ideas that he couldn't see what was right in front of him. So Jiaozhou said no to break that box. He said no to make the scholar stop thinking so hard, stop clinging to his books and his pride, and start feeling something instead. The farmer asked the question because he was lost. He wanted to know if he was worth it, if Even someone like him, who couldn't read, who had dirt under his nails, had that spark of goodness inside. He wasn't looking for a right answer. He was looking for hope. So Zhao said yes to wrap that hope around him. He said yes to tell the farmer, "You don't have to earn this. It's already yours." Just like the dogs. Zhao's yes and no weren't about the dog. They were about the people asking the question. He didn't care about the answer. He cared about freeing their minds from the tight, narrow spaces they'd trapped themselves in. The scholar was trapped in right and wrong. The farmer was trapped in "I'm not good enough." Zhao used one word to unlock those traps, like a key that fits two different locks. Now, think about your own mind. How often do you trap yourself in yes or no? How often do you say, "I have to be perfect at this job," or "I'm a failure"? That's a no to being human, a no to making mistakes. How often do you say, "If I don't worry about this, something terrible will happen"? That's a yes to fear, a yes to letting your mind race. How often do you think, "I should be happy right now, everyone else is"? That's a no to how you really feel, a no to being honest with yourself. Your mind loves to make rules. It loves to sort things into boxes: good, bad, right, wrong, success, failure. It thinks this will keep you safe. It thinks if you can label everything, you can control everything. But here's what Zhao knew. Those boxers are just illusions. They're like clouds in the sky. They look solid, but if you reach out to touch them, your hand goes right through. And when you spend all your time trying to fit yourself into those boxes, you miss the truth of who you are. Someone who doesn't need to be yes or no to be worthy. Someone who is already enough, just as you are. Take a deep breath in now, and when you exhale, imagine those boxes all, the I shoulds, and I have tos, and this is wrongs, melting away like ice in the sun. Let your mind be soft, like the grass after rain, instead of hard, like a stone. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be right. You don't even have to understand everything. Once, a monk asked Zhao, "Teacher, why do you always answer yes or no? Why don't you explain things clearly?" Zhao looked at him and said, "Do you want me to explain, or do you want to wake up?" Waking up isn't about understanding. It's about stopping the endless chatter in your head long enough to see what's real. It's about sitting with your tea and tasting it, really tasting it instead of thinking about what you're going to say next. It's about looking at a dog and seeing not a yes or a no, but a living thing, breathing just like you, with its own little spark of light. Right now, your mind might be chattering. It might be saying, "I don't get this story. What does a dog have to do with my sleep?" That's okay. You don't have to get it. Just let the words wash over you like water over stones. Let Zhao's yes and no be a reminder that your mind doesn't have to be tight. It doesn't have to sort and label and judge. It can just be. The farmer left the temple feeling lighter, too. He didn't become a scholar. He didn't memorize any sutras. But he went back to his fields, and when he looked at his dog, Gold, scruffy, always begging for scraps, he smiled. He thought, "We're both here. We both breathe. We both have that spark." And when the crops didn't grow, or the rain didn't come, he didn't get as angry. He just took a breath and looked at the dog and said, "Yes, this is okay too. You can do that too." When your mind starts racing, when you're worrying about tomorrow, or replaying yesterday, just say to yourself, yes, this is just my mind chattering, or no, I don't have to listen to it right now. It doesn't matter which one you pick. What matters is that you're not trapped in the chatter anymore. You're the one watching it, calm and quiet, like Zhao watching the people who came to him for answers. Keep breathing in and out. Let your shoulders drop a little more. Let your legs go loose. The boxers can wait. The answers can wait. Right now, all you need is this breath, this moment, this quiet. That's the second key. Letting go of right and wrong. Letting your mind be soft instead of tight. Because peace isn't in the answers. It's in the space between the questions. And that space is right here with you right now. Let your breath flow like a slow-moving river. Now no hurry to reach the end, just gliding gently over smooth stone. Keep that softness in your mind, the one we found with Zhao's yes and no. As we leave the temple village and walk into the quiet of the night, the moon is high, casting silver on the dirt road, and if you listen closely, you can hear the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Tonight's story is about a man named Cato, and he's not a monk or a scholar or a farmer. He's a thief. Cato has spent his life in the shadows. He creeps into houses when everyone is asleep, slipping through windows, quiet as a cat. He takes what he needs: coins, silver cups, sometimes a warm coat for the winter. He doesn't do it because he's cruel. He does it because he's always been hungry. Hungry for food, yes, but more than that, hungry for something to hold on to. Something that would make him feel like he belonged, like he wasn't just a ghost moving through the world. He's never had a home, never had a friend, never had a moment where he didn't feel like he was running from the police, from the people he'd stolen from the empty feeling in his chest. One night, Cato breaks into a small temple on the edge of town. He's heard the monks there have a golden statue of the Buddha, something worth enough to buy him a farm, a house, a life where he never has to steal again. He slips through the back door, his heart pounding, his hands clammy. The temple is dark, except for a single candle burning in the main hall. He creeps toward the light, and there, sitting on a low altar, is the statue shining in the candlelight, its face calm, its hands folded in peace. Cato reaches out to take it, but just as his fingers brush the cold metal, he hears a voice, soft, not angry, just calm. "What are you looking for?" Cato jumps. He spins around, ready to run, but there's an old monk standing in the doorway, holding a lantern. The monk's eyes are kind, not scared. He doesn't reach for a weapon. He just stands there, looking at Cato like he's not a thief, but just a man who's lost his way. I'm not here to hurt anyone," Cato stutters. His throat is dry. "I just need the statue. I need to buy a life." The monk nods. He sets the lantern down on the floor, and the light spreads, washing over Cato's shaking hands. "You want a life where you don't have to run," he says. Kaito nods. Tears sting his eyes. He hasn't talked to anyone like this in years, not without lying. "Yes," he says. "I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of feeling empty." The monk takes a step closer. "What if I told you the thing you're looking for isn't in that statue?" he says. "What if it's already inside you?" Cato laughs, but it's a hollow sound. "Inside me? There's nothing inside me but greed and fear. I'm a thief. I take things from people I don't deserve. Whatever it is you're talking about. The monk smiles. He walks over to the altar and picks up the golden statue. He holds it out to Cato. Take it, he says. Kaito freezes. What? Take the statue, the monk says again. But first, let me ask you this. When you steal something, when you slip into a house and take a cup or a coat, how do you feel afterward? Cato thinks. He remembers the last time he stole a loaf of bread from a baker's window. He'd run to an alley, eaten it so fast he'd choked, and then he'd sat there, staring at the wall, feeling worse than before. Empty, he says. Like I took something, but it didn't fill the hole. It just made it bigger. The monk nods. Because you're taking the wrong things, he says. You're taking things from the outside, coins, statues, coats to try to fill something that's inside. But you can't fill an inner empty with outer things. It's like trying to put out a fire with water that's already frozen. It won't work. He sets the statue back on the altar. Sit down, he says. Let's talk. Not as a monk and a thief, just as two people who've known suffering. Cato sits on the cold stone floor. His legs are still shaking, but the fear is softening, replaced by something he hasn't felt in a long time: curiosity. The monk sits across from him, and they talk until the candle burns down to a stub. The monk tells Cato about the Buddha, how he was a prince, with everything a man could want, but he'd left it all behind because he was tired of suffering, too. He tells Cato about the mind, how it's like a mirror, sometimes covered in dust, fear, greed, shame, but if you wipe it clean, it can reflect the light that's always there. What's the light? Cato asks. His voice is quiet now, not loud and defensive. Peace, the monk says. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on having a farm or a house or a golden statue. The kind of peace that's there even when you're hungry, even when you're scared, even when you've made mistakes. It's the part of you that's never been broken, the part that's always been worthy. Cato closes his eyes. He thinks about all the nights he's spent hiding, all the times he's lied, all the times he's hated himself. But he also thinks about the way the monk is looking at him, like he's worth talking to, like he's not just a thief. He thinks about the empty feeling in his chest, and for the first time, he wonders if it's not because he's missing something outside, but because he's been ignoring something inside. I don't know how to find that peace, he says. His voice is shaky, but there's hope in it now. The monk leans forward. You don't have to find it, he says. You just have to stop hiding from it. Let me show you something. He holds out his hand, palm up. Look at my hand. It's old. It has wrinkles. I've worked in the garden with it. I've cooked with it. I've held the hands of monks who were dying. It's not perfect, but it's still my hand. It still does what it needs to do. He gestures to Cato's hands. Your hands are the same. You've used them to steal, but you could also use them to help, to plant a seed, to hold a friend's hand, to wipe away a child's tears. The hands aren't the problem. It's what you choose to do with them. And the same goes for your heart. It's not broken. It's just been used in the wrong way. But you can choose to use it differently. Cato looks at his hands. They're calloused from climbing walls and picking locks. But for the first time, he doesn't see them as tools of theft. He sees them as part of himself, something he can change. He thinks about the baker's window, the loaf of bread, the way he'd felt afterward? What if he'd asked for the bread instead of stealing it? What if he'd offered to work for it? What do I do now? He says. The monk stands up. He walks to the door and opens it. The first light of dawn is starting to paint the sky pink. Go, he says. Return the things you've stolen, if you can. If not, make amends in other ways. Help a farmer plant his crops. Give a coin to a beggar. Smile at a stranger. And every night, before you sleep, close your eyes and breathe. Just breathe. And when you feel the empty feeling come back, don't run from it. Sit with it. Tell yourself, this is just a feeling. It doesn't define me. Cato stands up. He looks at the golden statue on the altar, but it doesn't call to him anymore. The thing he once pieces, already starting to grow in his chest, soft and warm, like a seed that's just sprouted. Thank you, he says. He bows to the monk, something he's never done for anyone before. The monk smiles. Remember, he says, enlightenment isn't for saints. It's for people like you people who've made mistakes, people who are tired of suffering, people who are willing to look inside themselves and see the light. Cato walks out of the temple into the dawn. The air is cool on his face, and he takes a deep breath, deeper than he's taken in years. He doesn't have a farm, or a house, or a golden statue, but he has something he's never had before: hope. He starts walking toward the town, not to steal, but to make amends. He thinks about the baker, and he decides he'll offer to work in his shop for free to pay back the loaf of bread. He thinks about the old woman he'd stolen a coat from last winter, and he decides he'll find a way to buy her a new one. And that night, when he's lying on a pile of straw in the baker's barn, the baker had let him stay. After Cato apologized and offered to work, he closes his eyes and breathes in and out. He feels the empty feeling start to creep in, but he doesn't run. He sits with it, like the monk said, and slowly it fades. Because he realizes the monk was right. The empty feeling wasn't because he was missing something. It was because he was missing himself. He was so busy running from who he was that he couldn't see who he could be now. I want you to think about Cato. What is the golden statue in your life? Is it a job you think will make you happy? A relationship you think will fix you? A possession you think will make you feel whole? Something you're chasing? Something you think will fill that empty space in your chest? Like Cato, you might have spent a long time reaching for things outside yourself, trying to fix the inside with the outside. You might have thought, if I just get that promotion, I'll be happy. Or if I just find someone to love me, I'll stop feeling lonely. Or if I just have more money, I'll stop worrying. But then you get those things, and the happiness fades. The loneliness comes back. The worry doesn't stop. Because, like the monk said, you're filling an inner empty with outer things, and it never works. The truth Cato learned that night is the same. Truth that's been waiting for you. The peace you're looking for is already inside you. It's not in a job, or a relationship, or a possession. It's in the way you breathe, in the way you sit with your feelings, in the way you choose to be kind to yourself, even when you've made mistakes, even when you're scared, even when you feel empty. Take a deep breath in now, and when you exhale, imagine that empty space in your chest. If you feel it starting to fill with light, not a bright, harsh light, but a soft, warm light, like the dawn Cato walked into. That light is your peace. It's been there all along. You just haven't been looking at it. Cato didn't become a monk. He became a baker. He worked hard. He apologized to the people he'd hurt, and he started to feel like he belonged. He still had bad days when he wanted to run, days when he felt empty. But on those days, he'd close his eyes and breathe, and he'd remember the monk's words. This is just a feeling. It doesn't define me. And slowly, the bad days got easier. The empty space got smaller, because he was no longer hiding from himself. He was embracing himself, full of himself, the good and the bad. You can do that too. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to be willing to look inside, to sit with your feelings, even the hard ones, to remember that the peace you're chasing isn't out there. It's right here, in this breath, in this moment, in you. Keep breathing, in and out. Let your body sink deeper into the bed. Let your mind soften like the light of the dawn. The golden statues can wait. The chasing can wait. Right now, all you need is to be here with yourself, with the peace that's already yours. That's the third key, stopping the chase. Realizing that the peace you're looking for is already inside you. You don't have to take it from anyone else. You don't have to earn it. You just have to let yourself feel it. And that feeling, soft, warm, quiet, is the beginning of the rest you've been needing. Let your breath stay as soft as the dawn light we left with Cataslow, steady, no rush. Let the warmth of that inner peace he found linger, like the last traces of sunlight on a windowsill, as we turn to a story that might feel a little sharp at first. But stay with it, just like you stay with your breath. It's not a story about cruelty. It's a story about something we all carry. The weight of choosing sides, of splitting the world into this and that, mine and yours, right and wrong. It's a story about a wise Zen master and a cat. Nangquan lived in a temple nestled between two hills, where the air smelled of pine and the sound of a stream trickled through the day. The temple was busy, filled with monks of all ages, each with their own way of doing things, their own ideas about what it meant to be good at being a monk. Some were strict, folding their robes until every crease was straight, meditating for hours without moving. Some were more relaxed, spending their days tending to the temple garden, singing soft hymns as they worked. Most of the time, they got along. But sometimes, just sometimes, their differences turned into arguments. Like two birds fighting over the same branch, they'd squawk and flap, too busy clinging to their own way to see that the branch was big enough for both. One afternoon, a small tabby cat wandered into the temple. It was skinny, with matted fur and a limp in one paw, like it had been wandering the hills alone for weeks. The monks found it huddled near the kitchen, meowing softly for food. At first, everyone cooed over it. They fed it scraps of rice, gently brushed its fur, and even made a little bed for it out of an old robe. But soon, the arguing started. The older monks said, "This cat is a distraction. We're here to meditate, to seek enlightenment, to play with animals. We should chase it away." The younger monks said, "No, it's hurt, it's scared. We have to take care of it. The Buddha taught us to be kind to all living things. How can we turn it away?" They went back and forth, their voices getting louder. The older monks talked about discipline and focus. The younger monks talked about compassion and kindness. Neither side would listen to the other. They gathered in the main hall, the cat sitting nervously in the middle of the circle, looking up at them like it knew it was the reason for the noise. The argument went on for hours, so long that the sun started to set, painting the walls of the hall in soft oranges and pinks. Still, they couldn't agree. Just then, Nongquan walked in. He'd been out in the forest, gathering herbs, and he could hear the shouting from halfway up the hill. He stood in the doorway, quiet, watching the monks argue. No one noticed him at first. They were too busy talking over each other. Finally, Nongquan cleared his throat. The hall went silent. All the monks turned to him, their faces eager. "Teacher," they said, "tell us what to do. Should we keep the cat or chase it away?" Nongquan didn't answer right away. He walked slowly into the hall, his eyes resting on each monkon, the tight jaws of the older ones, on the flushed cheeks of the younger ones. Then he bent down, picked up the cat, and walked over to the kitchen. Before anyone could say a word, he took a knife from the counter and quickly, gently killed the cat. The monks stared at him, horrified. Their mouths hung open, their eyes wide. The younger monks looked like they might cry. The older ones looked like they'd been struck by lightning. No one could believe it's their wise teacher. The man who talked about compassion and peace had just killed a defenseless cat. "Teacher," one of the younger monks stammered, his voice shaking. "Why did you do that? We were arguing about how to care for it, and you killed it." Nongquan set the knife down. He looked at the monks, his face calm, not angry. "Tell me," he said, "when you were arguing, when you were shouting about discipline and compassion, who was thinking about the cat?" The monks looked at each other. No one spoke, because the truth was, they hadn't been thinking about the cat. The older monks had been thinking about proving they were right about discipline. The younger monks had been thinking about proving they were right about kindness. The cat had just been an excuse, a thing to fight over, a way to hold on to their own ideas. They'd been so busy splitting the world into my way and your way that they'd forgotten the one thing that mattered. The cat, scared and hungry, sitting in the middle of them. Nongquan sighed. He walked over to the window, looking out at the setting sun. "You want to know why I killed the cat?" he said. "Because I wanted to wake you up. I wanted to show you what happens when you get stuck in this and that. When you split everything into two sides, you lose sight of what's in the middle. You lose sight of the cat. You lose sight of each other. You lose sight of peace." He turned back to the monks. "The Buddha didn't teach us to choose between discipline and compassion. He taught us to be both, to meditate with focus, and to feed a hungry cat with kindness. But you weren't being either. You were being angry. You were being stubborn. You were letting your ideas about right and wrong turn you against each other, and all over a little cat." The monks bowed their heads. Some of them cried. They thought about how silly they'd been, how they'd let a small argument turn into something ugly, how they'd forgotten the very teachings they'd come to the temple to learn. The older monks thought about how rigid they'd been, how they'd refused to see the kindness in the younger monks' hearts. The younger monks thought about how stubborn they'd been, how they'd refused to see the wisdom in the older monks' focus. And all of them thought about the cat, how it had just needed a little food, a little warmth, a little kindness, and instead it had become a victim of their own stubbornness. Later that night, one of the monks, an older one, with a long white beard, went to Nongquan's room. He knocked softly on the door. "Teacher," he said, "I understand now. I see what I did. I was so busy holding on to my idea of discipline that I forgot to be kind. I'm sorry, Nanquan smiled. He patted the monk's shoulder. Apology isn't needed, he said. What's needed is remembering. Remember what it feels like to be stuck in this and that. Remember what it feels like to lose sight of what's real. And next time you feel yourself choosing a side stop, breathe and look for the cat in the middle. Now, you might be sitting there, feeling a little like those monks, surprised, maybe even a little upset by what Nanquan did. But let's look for the cat in your own life. What are the things you argue about, Tivan, if it's just with yourself? What are the this and that split your mind into two, making you feel tense or angry or confused? Maybe it's something small. I should go to bed early, but I want to watch one more show. You split yourself into responsible me and lazy me, and you fight between them, your mind racing, unable to relax. Maybe it's something bigger. I love my job, but it's stressful. Should I quit or should I stay? You split the world into safe and risky, happy and secure, and you get stuck, worrying about making the wrong choice. Maybe it's about someone else. They said that thing to me. Were they being mean, or were they just having a bad day? You split them into good and bad, and you hold on to that anger or confusion, letting it weigh on you long after the moment is gone. Like the monks, we do this all the time. We split the world into two because it feels safer. It feels like if we can choose a side, if we can say this is right and that is wrong, we can control things. We can avoid making mistakes. We can feel like we know what we're doing. But the truth is, splitting things into two only makes us more stuck. It's like trying to walk with one foot on the ground and one foot in the air. You can't move forward and you can't relax. You just stay tense, balancing between two sides, never seeing the whole picture. Nanquan killed the cat to show the monks that their attachment to this and that was more harmful than the cat's death. He wanted them to see that when we get stuck in choosing sides, we hurt ourselves and the people and animals around us. He wanted them to let go of the split, to see that discipline and compassion aren't opposites. They're two parts of the same thing, being human. Take a deep breath in now, and when you exhale, imagine the sides you're holding on to, whatever they are. Imagine the line between this and that fading, like a pencil mark erased by a gentle hand. Let yourself see the whole picture, not just the two parts you've been focusing on. If you're fighting between going to bed and watching a show, ask yourself, what do I really need right now? Maybe it's 10 more minutes of the show to unwind, then sleep. Maybe it's just turning off the TV and letting your eyes close. Either way, it's not right or wrong. It's just what you need. If you're worrying about your job, ask yourself, what if I don't have to choose between staying and quitting? What if I can find a way to make the stress lighter while still doing the work I love? If you're upset with someone, ask yourself, what if they're not mean or nice? What if they're just a person having a hard day, same as me? The monks learned that night that peace isn't in choosing the right side. It's in letting go of the sides altogether. It's in seeing the world not as two separate things, but as one whole, messy, beautiful thing. It's in seeing the cat not as a reason to argue, but as a reason to be kind. Keep breathing in and out. Let your shoulders drop a little more. Let your jaw unclench. The sides can wait. The arguments can wait. Right now, you don't have to choose. You just have to be. You just have to see the whole picture, the you that's not split into good and bad, the world that's not split into right and wrong, the moment that's just this. That's the fourth key, letting go of the split. Letting go of this and that, mine and yours, right and wrong. Because peace isn't in choosing a side. It's in seeing that there are no sides, only what is. And what is, right now, is you, breathing softly in a quiet room, safe and warm. That's all you need. Let your breath flow like the stream we heard in Nongqin's temple, soft, constant, unhurried. Let the lesson of letting go of sides stay with you like a quiet echo as we turn to a story about sorrow. Not the sharp, sudden kind that makes you gasp, but the heavy, lingering kind that sits in your chest like a stone, the kind we all carry sometimes. When we lose someone we love, or things don't go the way we hoped. This is a story about a woman named Miaoshan, though you might know her by another name later, and a single mustard seed, long ago. In a small village near a river, there lived a woman named Miaoshan. She was kind, the kind of person who left extra rice at the door of the poor family down the road, who helped the elderly carry water from the well, who sang to the children when they were scared of thunder. She had a husband she loved, and a young daughter with eyes like dark stars. Her life wasn't perfect. They didn't have much money, and some years the crops failed, but it was full. She woke up each morning with a smile, because she had people to love, and people who loved her back. Then, one winter, her daughter got sick. At first, it was just a cough, soft, like the rustle of leaves. But the cough got worse. The girl's cheeks turned red, and she couldn't keep food down. Miaoshan sat by her bed day and night, pressing cool cloths to her forehead, singing the same lullabies she'd sung since the girl was a baby. She took her to the village healer, who gave her herbs and potions, but nothing worked. One cold morning, as the sun was just starting to peek over the mountains, the little girl closed her eyes and didn't open them again. Miaoshan's world broke. She sat by the empty bed, staring at the blankets that still held the shape of her daughter, and she couldn't cry. She couldn't speak. She just felt empty, emptier than she'd ever felt before. Her husband tried to comfort her, but she couldn't hear him. The villagers brought her food, but she couldn't eat. Days turned into weeks, and still she sat there wearing the same clothes, her hair unbrushed, her eyes fixed on the wall. She didn't want to leave the house. She didn't want to see the sun, or hear the birds, or do anything that reminded her that the world was still turning, even though her little girl was gone one day. A monk came to the village. He was traveling from temple to temple, carrying only a bowl and a walking stick. He heard about Miaoshan, about her sorrow, about how she'd stopped living, and he went to her house. He knocked softly on the door. No one answered. He knocked again, and this time he heard a quiet voice from inside. "Go away. I don't want to see anyone." The monk didn't go away. He sat down on the step outside her door, and he said, "I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm just here to listen. If you want to talk, I'll listen. If you don't, I'll sit here until you tell me to leave." He sat there all day. The sun rose high, then set low, painting the sky in purples and pinks. Finally, Miaoshan opened the door. Her face was pale, her eyes red, but there was a flicker of something in her gaze. Curiosity, maybe, or just tiredness. "Why are you still here?" she said. The monk stood up. He looked at her, not with pity, but with kindness, the kind of kindness that says, I see your pain and I don't judge it, because I know what it's like to lose someone, he said. I know what it's like to feel like the world has ended and you're the only one left standing in the ruins. Mayaoshin let him in. She sat on the floor by her daughter's bed, and the monk sat across from her. For a long time, she didn't speak. Then, slowly, the words came about her daughter's laugh, about the way she'd chase fireflies in the summer, about the last morning she'd held her hand. She talked until her throat was sore, until the tears finally came, hot and fast, and she cried into her hands. The monk didn't say anything. He just sat there, quiet, letting her pour out her sorrow like water from a broken jug. When she was done, when her tears had slowed, the monk said, Mayaoshin, I have a request. I need you to do something for me. Go to every house in the village and ask for a single mustard seed. But there's one rule. You can only take a mustard seed from a house where no one has ever lost a loved one. No one has ever cried for someone who's gone. Mayaoshin frowned. Why would you want that? She said. What good will a mustard seed do? Just trust me, the monk said. Bring me the seed and I'll show you. The next morning, Mayaoshin got up. She washed her face, brushed her hair, put on clean clothes, the first time she'd done that in weeks. She walked out of her house, and the sun felt warm on her face. She walked to the first house, a small cottage where an old woman lived. Excuse me, Mayaoshin said. I need a single mustard seed, but only if no one in your house has ever lost a loved one. The old woman smiled, but it was a sad smile. Oh, my dear, she said. I lost my husband 10 years ago. We were married for 40 years. I still dream about him sometimes. She went inside and came back with a mustard seed. Take it anyway, she said. But I'm sorry I can't give you one that fits your rule. Mayaoshin took the seed. She thanked the old woman and walked to the next house. A farmer lived there with his wife and 2 sons. Do you have a mustard seed I can have? Mayaoshin said. Only if no one here has ever lost a loved one. The farmer's wife looked down at her hands. We lost our youngest son 2 years ago, she said. He fell in the river. We searched for days, but we never found his body. She wiped a tear from her eye. I'll give you a seed, though. No one should have to search alone. Mayaoshin walked to every house in the village. She talked to the baker who'd lost his mother, to the blacksmith who'd lost his best friend, to the tailor who'd lost her baby before it was born. Every house had a story of loss. Every person had cried for someone they loved. By the end of the day, her pocket was full of mustard seeds, but not a single one came from a house where no one had ever grieved. She went back to her house, where the monk was still sitting. She poured the seeds out onto the floor, small, yellow, countless. I couldn't find one, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. Every house has lost someone. Every person has sorrow. The monk nodded. He picked up one of the seeds, held it between his fingers. Do you see this seed? He said. It's small, tiny, even, but if you plant it, it grows. It becomes a plant with leaves and flowers, and it makes more seeds. Sorrow is like that. It's small at first, or maybe it's big, like a storm, but it grows. It changes you. But here's the thing. You're not the only one planting it. Every person you talked to today has their own mustard seed. Every person in the world has one. Myaoshan looked at the seeds. But why does it have to hurt so much? She said. Why do we have to lose the people we love? The monk set the seed down. Because love and sorrow are two sides of the same coin, he said. You can't have one without the other. If you never loved your daughter as much as you did, you wouldn't grieve her as much as you do. The pain is a sign of how much you cared, how much she mattered. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It means your heart is big enough to love deeply, even when it hurts. He leaned forward. But sorrow isn't meant to be carried alone. You've been sitting in this house, holding on to your pain like a secret, but it's not a secret. Everyone knows it. Everyone feels it. The old woman with the sad smile, she knows. The farmer's wife who cried, she knows. You don't have to carry this alone. Myaoshan thought about the day. She thought about the old woman who talked about her husband, the farmer's wife who talked about her son. She thought about how, when she'd shared her own story, they'd nodded, like they understood, really understood. She thought about how heavy her heart had felt when she woke up, and how a little lighter it felt now, after talking to them. I still miss her, she said. The monk smiled. You'll always miss her, he said. That's okay. Missing someone is just love with nowhere to go. But you can let that love go somewhere else. You can tell stories about her to the children in the village, to your husband, to yourself. You can plant a tree in her name and watch it grow. You can be kind to someone else, like she was kind to you. That's how you keep her with you, not by sitting in the dark, but by letting her love shine through you. That night, Myaoshan sat with her husband. She told him about the monk, about the mustard seeds, about the people in the village. She held his hand, and he held hers, and they cried, not just for their daughter, but for all the people who'd ever lost someone, for all the love that had ever hurt. But this time, the crying didn't feel like breaking. It felt like healing, like letting out the air that had been trapped in her chest for weeks. The next morning, Myaoshan went to the village square. She took a handful of mustard seeds, and she gave one to every person she saw. Plant this, she said. Plant it for someone you've lost. And when it grows, remember, you're not alone. People planted the seeds. In gardens, in fields, by the river. Soon, the village was full of mustard plants, tall, green, with bright yellow flowers. When the wind blew, the flowers swayed, like they were dancing. And when Myaoshan looked at them, she didn't just see plants. She saw her daughter's smile. She saw the old woman's husband. She saw the farmer's son. She saw all the love that had ever been lost, and all the love that was still there, growing every day. Now I want you to think about Myaoshan's mustard seed. What is the sorrow you're carrying? Is it the loss of someone you love? A dream that didn't come true? A mistake you can't undo? Something that sits in your chest, heavy like a stone, making it hard to breathe, hard to sleep, hard to feel anything but the pain. Like Myaoshan, you might have thought you were alone in that sorrow. You might have thought no one else could understand that your pain is too big, too sharp to yours. But the truth is, you're not alone. Every person you pass on the street, every friend you talk to, every stranger who smiles at you, they have a mustard seed too. They've lost something or someone. They've cried themselves to sleep. They've felt like the world was ending, too. Sorrow is not a punishment. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you've loved deeply, fully, honestly. And that's a gift, even when it hurts. Even when you wish you could make it stop. Take a deep breath in now. And when you exhale, imagine that heavy stone in your chest, that sorrow getting a little lighter. Imagine holding it in your hands, not like a secret, but like a mustard seed. Small, fragile, but full of life. You don't have to carry it alone. You can talk to someone about it. A friend, a family member, even a stranger. You can write it down, or sing it, or paint it. You can plant a seed, or a tree, or just sit outside and feel the sun on your face. You can let yourself grieve, but you don't have to let grief stop you from living. Myoshin never forgot her daughter, but she stopped letting her sorrow keep her in the dark. She started living again, not because the pain went away, but because she learned to carry it with her, gently, like a mustard seed. She learned that sorrow and joy can live together, that you can miss someone and still laugh, still love, still find beauty in the world. Keep breathing, in and out. Let your shoulders drop a little more. Let your chest feel lighter, like the air is flowing through it again. The sorrow is still there, maybe, but it's not the only thing there. There's also the breath in your lungs, the warmth of the bed, the quiet of the night. There's also the love that's still with you, in memories, in stories, in the way you care for the people around you. That's the fifth key, letting sorrow be, not fighting it, not hiding from it, but letting it be there, soft, small, like a mustard seed, and remembering that you're not alone in it, because every heart has a sorrow, and every heart has a love that's bigger than it. And that love, that's the light that will guide you through the dark. Let your breath stay as gentle as the sway of those mustard flowers we left with Myoshin, slow, soft, moving in time with the quiet of your space. Let the warmth of knowing you're not alone in sorrow linger like a hand held softly in yours. As we turn to a story about something else we all carry, restlessness, that quiet, unshakable feeling that something's not right, that our minds are racing, our hearts are uneasy, and we can't seem to settle. This is a story about Hook, a man who searched for years to fix his anxiety, and Bodhi, the monk who showed him it was never broken to begin with. Long ago, in the northern hills of China, there lived a man named Hook. He was a scholar. Once he'd read all the holy books, memorized poems, debated with the wisest men in the land. But none of it quieted the noise in his head. At night, he'd lie awake, thinking about the future, worrying about the past, feeling like a leaf caught in a storm, tossed this way and that, never able to land. He tried meditating, but his mind would wander to his to-do list. He tried praying, but his thoughts would drift to mistakes he'd made. He tried traveling, visiting temples and shrines, asking every monk he met, "How do I calm my mind? How do I find peace?" But no one had an answer that stuck. It was like trying to catch water with a sieve. He'd grasp at a pippy, a teaching, a method, but it would slip through his fingers, leaving him more restless than before. One day, Hook heard about a monk named Bodhidharma. People said Bodhidharma had come from a far-off land, crossing mountains and oceans to share a new kind of wisdom. They said he was staying in a cave on Song Mountain, sitting, facing the wall, meditating day and night for years, without speaking, without moving, just looking at his own heart. Hook thought, "This must be the one. This monk has found what I'm looking for." So he packed a small bag, said goodbye to his family, and set off for Song Mountain. The journey was long. He walked for weeks, through forests thick with snow, over rivers frozen solid, up hills so steep his legs ached. But he didn't stop. The restlessness in his chest pushed him forward like a fire that wouldn't go out. When he finally reached Song Mountain, he found the cave easily. It was small, dark, hidden behind a curtain of vines. And inside, sitting cross-legged on the cold stone floor, facing the wall, was Bodhidharma. His hair was long and matted, his robes were tattered, but his back was straight, and his breathing was slow, so slow it looked like he was barely alive. He didn't turn when Hook entered. He didn't even blink. He just sat, staring at the wall, as if Hook wasn't there at all. Hook knelt down in front of him. He bowed deeply, his forehead touching the stone. "Venerable teacher," he said, his voice shaking with hope, "I have traveled far to see you. My mind is restless. It's like a monkey jumping from branch to branch. I can't control it. I can't sleep. I can't think. Please teach me how to calm it. Please help me find peace." Bodhidharma didn't move. He didn't speak. He just kept staring at the wall. Hook waited. He knelt there for hours, his knees growing numb, his hands cold. The cave was dark, and the wind outside howled like a wolf. But he didn't leave, he thought. If this monk can sit here in silence for years, I can wait a little while longer. Night fell. The temperature dropped. Snow started to fall outside, drifting through the cave's entrance, covering Hook's shoulders with a thin layer of white. His teeth chattered. His fingers turned blue. But still, Bodhidharma didn't speak. Still, he didn't turn. Hook's hope started to fade. He thought, maybe he can't help me. Maybe no one can. Maybe I'll be restless forever. A wave of sadness washed over him, sadness for the years he'd wasted searching, sadness for the peace he'd never find. But then something in him snapped. Not anger, determination, he thought. I will not leave here until he helps me. I will show him how much I need this. And then quick, sudden, like a knife cutting through cloth, Hook took the dagger he carried in his belt. He lifted his left arm, and with one swift motion, he cut off his own arm. Blood poured out, staining the stone floor red. He didn't cry out. He just picked up the arm, held it out to Bodhidharma, and said, "Teacher, if you will not teach me, I will give up everything. I will give up my arm. I will give up my life. Just tell me, how do I calm my mind?" Finally, Bodhidharma turned. He looked at Hook, at his pale face, at his bleeding shoulder, at the arm in his hand. His eyes were calm, not shocked, not pitying, just clear, like a lake with no ripples. He spoke, his voice low and rough, like he hadn't used it in years. "What do you want from me?" Hook was confused. "I told you," he said. "I want you to calm my mind. I want peace." Bodhidharma looked at him for a long moment. Then he said, "Bring me your mind. Show it to me, and I will calm it for you." Hook froze. He looked down at his hands, at the blood, at the arm he'd cut off. He thought, "Bring me my mind. How do I bring him my mind? Where is my mind, anyway?" He closed his eyes. He tried to find his mind, to grab it, to hold it, to show it to Bodhidharma. But all he found was nothing. Not empty nothing, but the kind of nothing that's full of space. He thought about his racing thoughts, his worries, his restlessness, but when he tried to find the mind that was having those thoughts, it slipped away. It was like trying to catch the wind. "I can't find it," Hook said, his voice quiet. I can't bring you my mind. I don't know where it is. Bodhidharma smiled. A small smile, but a real one, like the sun breaking through clouds. There, he said. I have calmed it for you. Hook blinked. He looked at Bodhidharma, then at his bleeding shoulder, then at the empty space where his arm used to be. And in that moment, slow, soft, like a flower opening, he understood. He understood that the mind he'd been trying to calm didn't exist as a thing. It wasn't something he could grab or fix or calm. It was just a stream of thoughts coming and going, like clouds in the sky, like leaves in the wind. The restlessness he'd felt wasn't because his mind was broken. It was because he'd been clinging to those thoughts, trying to push away the bad ones, trying to control something that couldn't be controlled. He thought about all the years he'd spent searching for books, for monks, for methods. He thought about the arm he'd cut off, thinking it would prove how much he wanted peace. But peace wasn't something he could get from anyone else. It wasn't something he had to earn or fight for, or give up his arm for. It was something he already had, something that was there, in the space between his thoughts. In the quiet moments when he stopped trying to find it, Hook bowed again, this time deeper, his forehead touching the blood-stained stone. Thank you, he said. I see now. I was looking for something that was already with me. Bodhidharma nodded. He took a cloth from his robes and handed it to Hook to wrap around his shoulder. Your mind is like the moon in the sky, he said. Sometimes it's covered by clouds, thoughts, worries, sorrows, but the moon is still there. It doesn't disappear. It's just waiting for the clouds to pass. You don't have to calm the moon. You just have to stop staring at the clouds. Hook stayed with Bodhidharma for years. He learned to sit in silence, not trying to control his thoughts, just watching them come and go like a farmer watching birds fly over his field. He learned that restlessness wasn't an enemy. It was just a sign that his mind was busy, like a child playing. He learned to smile at his worries, to let them pass, to not hold on to them like they were important. And slowly, the restlessness faded, not because it was gone, but because he stopped fighting it. He stopped trying to fix himself. He just was. One day, a young monk came to the cave. He knelt in front of Hook, who was now an old man with a long white beard. Sitting in the same spot Bodhidharma had, Satan said, "Teacher, my mind is restless. I can't sleep. I can't think. Please, how do I calm it?" Hook looked at him, his eyes clear and calm. He said, "Bring me your mind. Show it to me, and I will calm it for you." The young monk closed his eyes. He searched and searched, but he couldn't find his mind. "I can't find it," he said. Hook smiled. "There," he said, "it is calm. Now, I want you to think about Hook. What is the restlessness you're carrying? Is it the feeling that you're not doing enough, that you should be working harder, sleeping less, achieving more? Is it the worry that you're missing out on opportunities, on love, on a better life? Is it the quiet voice that says, you're not good enough, you're not calm enough, you're not happy enough?" Like Hook, you might have spent a long time trying to fix this restlessness. You might have tried meditation apps, or self-help books, or yoga classes. You might have pushed yourself harder, or numbed yourself with TV, or food, or scrolling, all to make that noisy mind quiet. But, like Hook, you might have found that none of it works, because you're trying to calm a mind that doesn't exist as a thing. You're trying to grab the wind Your mind is just a stream of thoughts. Thoughts about the past, I should have said that. Thoughts about the future, what if this happens? Thoughts about yourself, I'm not enough. These thoughts aren't you. They're just clouds passing in the sky. The moon, your true self, the part of you that's calm, that's peaceful, that's always there, isn't affected by the clouds. It's just waiting for you to notice it. Take a deep breath in now. And when you exhale, imagine yourself sitting in Bodhidharma's cave, cold, quiet, dark. Imagine Bodhidharma asking you, bring me your mind. What do you see? Do you see your worries? Your to-do list? Your mistakes? Now, try to grab those thoughts. Try to hold them, to show them to Bodhidharma. What happens? They slip away, don't they? Because they're not things. They're just passing. You don't have to calm your mind. You just have to stop fighting it. You just have to stop clinging to the clouds and start looking at the moon. When a worry comes up, I have to finish that project tomorrow. You don't have to push it away. You don't have to fix it. You just have to say, hello, worry. I see you. I'll deal with you tomorrow. Right now, I'm breathing. When a sad thought comes up, I miss that person. You don't have to cry over it. You don't have to hide from it. You just have to say, hello, sadness. I remember. Right now, I'm breathing. Hook learned that peace isn't something you get. It's something you realize you already have. It's in the space between your thoughts. It's in the sound of your breath. It's in the quiet of this night as you lie in bed, safe and warm. Keep breathing in and out. Let your shoulders drop a little more. Let your jaw unclench. Let your thoughts come and go like birds, like clouds, like leaves in the wind. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to catch them. You just have to watch them pass. That's the sixth key, stopping the search. Realizing that the peace you're looking for isn't somewhere else. It's not in a book, or a monk, or a method. It's in you. It's in the quiet moments when you stop trying to fix your mind and start letting it be. It's in the breath you're taking right now. That's your peace. That's your moon. And it's always been there. Let your breath remain as steady as the moon we talked about, with Hook constant, soft, a quiet anchor in the night. Let the truth that your peace lives within you linger like a gentle hum as we turn to a story about something that stirs fear in almost everyone: death. Not the sharp, scary kind we see in stories, but the quiet, inevitable kind. The one that comes to all of us, like the sun setting after a long day. This is a story about an old man named Takashi, who lived in a small wooden house at the edge of a forest, and who faced the end of his life not with fear, but with something much softer: acceptance. Takashi was 87 years old. His hair was white as snow. His hands were gnarled with age, and he walked with a cane made from a cherry tree branch he'd cut himself decades ago. He'd lived a long life. He'd been a farmer, planting rice and vegetables in the fields until his legs grew too weak. He'd been a father, raising 3 children who now had children of their own. He'd been a friend, sitting with neighbors on summer evenings, drinking tea and telling stories about the old days. He'd known joy like the day his first grandchild was born, the sound of her tiny cry filling the house, and he'd known sorrow like the day his wife of 50 years passed away, leaving an empty chair at their dinner table. But through it all, he'd never been afraid of much. Not storms, not floods, not even the hungry wolves that sometimes wandered near the forest. The only thing people thought might scare him was death. One autumn, Takashi got sick. It wasn't a sudden sickness, just a slow, quiet fading. He tired easily, his appetite went away, and he spent more time sitting by the window, watching the leaves turn red and gold and fall to the ground. His children came to visit, their faces worried. They brought him soup and medicine and tried to talk to him about going to the doctor in the city. But Takashi just smiled and shook his head. "I don't need a doctor," he said. "I'm just getting ready to go home." His oldest son, Hiroshi, sat beside him one afternoon, holding his hand. "Father," he said, his voice tight with tears, "are you scared about what comes next?" Takashi looked at his son. He squeezed his hand gently, his old fingers warm. "Scared," he said. "Why would I be scared? Death is just part of the cycle, like the leaves falling from the trees. They don't get scared, they just let go, and then in spring, new leaves grow. It's the way of things." Hiroshi frowned. "But we don't know what comes next," he said. "What if there's nothing? What if this is all there is?" Takashi laughed a soft, rumbling laugh that made his shoulders shake. "What if there is nothing?" he said. "What if this life, this farm, this family, these teacups? Then I've been lucky. I've had more than enough. Why would I be scared of ending a life that was so good?" He pointed to the window, where a sparrow was perched on a branch, pecking at a berry. "Look at that bird," he said. "It doesn't worry about tomorrow. It eats the berry, it sings, it flies. When its time comes, it will fall from the sky, and the earth will take it back. It doesn't question it, it just lives. That's what we should do, live, and then let go, without fear." Hiroshi didn't understand. He was 50 years old, with a business to run, a wife to care for, and children in school. He thought about death often, and it scared him of leaving his family, scared him of missing out on the years to come, scared him of the unknown. "But I don't want you to go," he said, his voice breaking. Takashi wiped a tear from his son's cheek with his thumb. "I don't want to leave you either," he said. "I'll miss your soup and your stories and the sound of my grandchildren laughing. But missing something isn't the same as being scared of it. I'll be with you, even when I'm not here. In the rice fields I planted, in the cherry tree that grows in the yard, in the stories you'll tell your children about me. I'll be in the wind that blows through the forest, and the sun that warms your face in the morning. You don't lose someone when they die. You lose them only when you stop remembering." That evening, Takashi asked his children to bring him his favorite blanket, the one his wife had woven for him, with blue and white stripes, and to open the window so he could smell the forest. He sat in his chair, wrapped in the blanket, watching the sun set behind the trees. The sky turned pink and orange, and the first stars started to come out. His grandchildren sat on the floor at his feet, drawing pictures with crayons, and his daughter read him a story from a book he'd loved as a child. When the sun had set completely, Takashi took a deep breath. He closed his eyes, and his head tilted slightly to the side. His breathing slowed, then stopped. He was gone. His children cried. Of course they cried, for the father they loved, for the man who'd taught them to plant rice, to be kind, to laugh at the rain. But they didn't cry out of fear. They cried out of love and gratitude for the life he'd lived and the way he'd left it, calm, peaceful, surrounded by the people he cared about. A few weeks later, Hiroshi was walking through the rice fields. The harvest was over and the fields were quiet. He thought about his father's words, about the leaves, about the sparrow, about not being scared of the unknown. He looked at the soil beneath his feet, dark and rich, and he thought about how his father had planted seeds here year after year, knowing that some would grow and some wouldn't, but still planting anyway. He thought about how his father had lived his life, not worrying about what would happen next, but just being present for his family, for his friends, for the simple things like a cup of tea or a sunset. And in that moment, Hiroshi understood. He understood that his father wasn't brave because he wasn't scared. He was brave because he was scared of leaving his family. Scared of the unknown, but he chose to focus on the love, not the fear. He chose to see death not as an end, but as a part of the cycle, as natural as the sun rising and setting, as the leaves falling and growing back. Now I want you to think about Takashi. What is it about death that scares you? Is it the fear of leaving the people you love? The fear of missing out on the things you haven't done yet? The fear of the unknown, of what comes next, or if anything comes next? Like Hiroshi, you might think about death and feel a tightness in your chest. You might lie awake at night, worrying about the future, or regretting the past, or feeling like you haven't done enough with your life. But Takashi's story reminds us that death isn't the enemy. Fear is the enemy. The fear of living fully, the fear of letting go, the fear of accepting that life is temporary. Life is like a candle. It burns for a while, sometimes long, sometimes shortened, then it goes out. But while it's burning, it gives light. It warms the room. It helps us see. We don't spend time being scared of the candle going out. We spend time enjoying the light. That's what Takashi did. He didn't spend his last days worrying about death. He spent them enjoying the light, his family, his home, the forest, the sunset. Take a deep breath in now, and when you exhale, imagine that fear of death. If you feel it softening, like wax melting in the sun, imagine it turning into something else. Gratitude. Gratitude for the life you have right now, the bed you're lying in, the air you're breathing, the people who love you, the small joys that make each day special. You don't have to be brave like Takashi. You just have to be present. You just have to remember that every moment is a gift of them, the hard ones, even the quiet ones, even the ones that feel like they're slipping away. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be everything. You just have to be here, now, enjoying the light. Takashi's children still talk about him. They tell stories about the time he chased a fox away from the chicken coop with his cane, about the way he sang off-key in the shower, about the advice he gave them when they were sad or scared. They don't talk about his death. They talk about his life, and in that way, he's still with them, still giving them light, still warming their hearts. Keep breathing, in and out. Let your body sink deeper into the bed. Let your mind soften, like the sunset Takashi watched. The fear of death can wait. The worries about the future can wait. Right now, all you need to do is be here, enjoying the light of this moment. That's the seventh key, accepting the cycle. Understanding that life and death are two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the other. And that the fear of death fades when you focus on living fully, on loving deeply, on being present. Because the only thing that matters isn't how long you live, it's how you live. And right now, you're living, breathing, feeling, being damned. That's more than enough. Let your breath stay as soft as the sunset Takashi watched slow, warm, melting into the quiet of the night. Let the comfort of accepting life's cycle linger, like a blanket wrapped loosely around your shoulders, as we turn to a story about a different kind of wake-up call. Not the gentle kind, like a soft breeze or a bird's song, but the kind that jolts you just for a second out of the tight, familiar box of your own thoughts. This is a story about Linji Xuan, a Zen master known for his loud voice and his way of breaking through the noise of people's minds, and how a single shout can open a door to peace. Linji lived in a temple in northern China during the Tang dynasty. He wasn't like the quiet, meditative monks you might imagine sitting cross-legged for hours, speaking in soft whispers. No, Linji was fiery. He walked with purpose, his eyes sharp, and when he spoke, it was often with a shout loud enough to make the temple bells ring, loud enough to make his disciples jump, loud enough to cut through the endless chatter in their heads. People called him Linji the Shouter, and some thought he was rude or angry or even crazy. But those who knew him understood. The shout wasn't about anger. It was about love. It was about waking people up from the dream of their own thoughts, from the I shoulds, the I know, that this is how it has to be, and showing them the truth that was right in front of them. Linji's temple was full of disciples, all eager to learn from him. But many of them came with their minds already full of books they'd read, full of ideas they'd memorized, full of rules they thought they had to follow. They'd sit in the main hall, their backs straight, their hands folded, waiting for Linji to give them answers to their questions about enlightenment, about peace, about life. But Linji didn't give answers. He gave shouts. One day, a young disciple named Wenzi came to Linji. Wenzi had studied Buddhism for years. He could recite sutras from memory. He could explain complicated teachings about emptiness and Buddha nature. And he was sure he was close to understanding enlightenment. He stood in front of Linji, his head held high, and said, "Teacher, I have spent 3 years studying the Dharma. I know the teachings. I can explain them to anyone. But I still don't feel enlightened. What am I missing? What do I need to do to find peace?" Linji looked at Wenzi. He didn't say anything at first. He just stared calm, clear, like he was looking right through Wenzi's words to the confused, tight part of his mind underneath. Wenzi shifted from foot to foot, waiting for a wise answer, a list of things to do, a new book to read. But instead, Linji took a deep breath. Then he shouted, "What are you holding on to?" The shout was so loud, it echoed off the temple walls. Wenzi jumped back, his eyes wide. He stumbled, almost falling over his own feet. For a second, he couldn't think of anything. No sutras, no teachings, no ideas about enlightenment. His mind went completely blank. Just quiet. Linji stepped forward, his voice soft now, almost gentle. "There," he said. "That's the space you've been looking for. That's the peace. You were so busy holding on to knowing, holding on to your books, your words, your ideas, that you couldn't see it. I had to shout to make you let go." Wenzi stood there, still shaking a little, but his mind was calmer than it had been in years. He thought about all the time he'd spent studying peace, all the time he'd spent trying to understand it, and how silly it seemed now. Peace wasn't in the books. it wasn't in the words. It was in the space between the words, in the moment when his mind stopped racing, when he stopped trying to hold on to anything. He bowed deeply, his forehead touching the floor. "Thank you, teacher," he said. "I see now. I was looking for something that was already there right in the quiet." Linji smiled. "Don't thank me," he said. "Thank the shout. It didn't give you anything. It just took away what was blocking you." Another time, a group of monks came to Linji, arguing about a question. What is the true self, the part of us that's always peaceful, always wise? They'd been debating for days, each one giving a different answer, each one sure they were right. One said the true self was Buddha nature. Another said it was emptiness. Another said it was the mind that doesn't judge. They stood in front of Linji, talking over each other, their voices getting louder and louder. Linji listened for a minute. Then he took a deep breath and shouted, "Stop talking about it." The monks fell silent, their mouths hung open. For a second, they forgot their arguments, forgot their answers, forgot the question itself. They just stood there, breathing, feeling the quiet in the hall. Linji looked at them. "You're like a group of people standing around a well, arguing about what water tastes like," he said. "Some say it's sweet, some say it's cold, some say it's clear, but none of you are bending down to drink it. The true self isn't something you talk about. It's something you are when you stop talking, stop thinking, stop trying to figure it out." One of the monks, an older one, with a long beard teared up, "I've been arguing about this for 20 years, he said. "I've read hundreds of books. I never thought it could be this simple." "It's not simple," Linji said. "It's just hard to let go of the talking, the thinking, the I know. But that's the key, letting go, not holding on to anything, not even the idea of the true self." Linji's shouts weren't meant to scare people. They were meant to shock their minds out of the ruts they dug. We all do this. We get stuck in our own thoughts, our own beliefs, our own ways of seeing the world. We think, this is how things are, or I am this way, or I need to do X to be happy. And we hold on to those ideas like they're lifelines, but really, they're chains. They keep us tight, keep us anxious, keep us from seeing the peace that's right there. In the space between the thoughts, Linji knew this. He knew that sometimes a gentle word isn't enough. Sometimes you need something loud, something unexpected to break the chain, not because the chain is bad, but because we've forgotten it's there. We've gotten so used to the tightness that we think it's normal. We think, this is just how my mind is busy, racing, never quiet, but it's not. It's just how we've learned to be, and we can unlearn it now. Think about your own chain. What are the thoughts you hold on to so tightly? Is it, I'm not good at relaxing? Is it, I have to solve all my problems before I can sleep? Is it, if I don't worry about tomorrow, something bad will happen? These thoughts aren't true, they're just habits. They're the things you've repeated to yourself so many times that you think they're part of who you are, but they're not. They're just noise. Like Wednesday, you might be so busy thinking about peace that you can't feel it. You might be reading this, your mind already wandering. When will I feel relaxed? Am I doing this right? What if this doesn't work? But those thoughts are just the chain, and you don't need a loud shout to break them. You just need to notice them. To say, oh, there's that thought again. I don't have to hold on to it. Take a deep breath in now. And when you exhale, imagine Linji's shout not as something loud and scary, but as a soft nudge. A nudge that says, let go, just for a second. Let your mind go blank, no thoughts, no worries, no shoulds. Space, that space is your peace. It's always there, between the thoughts, waiting for you to notice it. Linji's disciples didn't become enlightened because of his shout. They became enlightened because the shout gave them a moment of quiet enough to see that the peace they were looking for was already inside them. They stopped trying to find it and started just being it. You can do that too. You don't need to shout at yourself. You just need to notice the noise. When a worried thought comes up, don't fight it. Don't try to fix it. Just say, hello, noise. I see you. I'm not going to hold on to you right now. Then take a breath and let it go. Let your mind return to the space, to the quiet. Keep breathing in and out. Let your shoulders drop a little more. Let your jaw unclench. The noise can wait. The thoughts can wait. Right now, all you need is the space, the quiet between the shouts, the peace between the thoughts. That's the 8th key, breaking the chain, not with anger or force, but with awareness, noticing the thoughts you hold on to so tightly and letting them go, because peace isn't something you find by thinking. It's something you feel by stopping the thinking even for just a second. And that second is right here, right now, in the softness of your breath. Let your breath flow like the quiet after Linji's shouts, unrushed, settling back into the stillness of the night. Let that awareness of letting go of tight thoughts linger like a leaf floating on calm water. As we turn to a story about something we've all seen but rarely truly notice, the moon in the water. It's a simple image, but it holds a truth that can unlock a kind of peace we often miss, peace from chasing the things that look real, but aren't. This is a story about a monk named Genji who learned to stop reaching for the moon and start seeing the water. Genj. I lived in a small temple by a lake, surrounded by willow trees that dipped their branches into the water, making tiny ripples even on the calmest days. He was a young monk, still learning to quiet his mind, and he spent a lot of time worrying about whether he was meditating correctly, worrying about whether he'd ever be as wise as his teacher, worrying about the future and all the things he thought he needed to become. He'd sit by the lake for hours, staring at the water, but his mind was always elsewhere, on his to-do list, on his mistakes, on the person he wanted to be. He never really saw the lake. He never really saw the moon. One night, the sky was clear, no clouds, no wind, and the moon was full, hanging low over the water like a silver coin. Genji sat by the lake, as he always did, but this time his teacher sat beside him. The old monk said nothing at first. He just looked at the moon, then at its reflection in the water, bright clear, almost as real as the moon itself. Finally, the teacher spoke. "Genji," he said, his voice soft as the willow leaves, "look at the moon in the water. What do you see?" Genji frowned. He thought it was a trick question. "I see the moon," he said, "its reflection. It looks just like the real one." The teacher nodded. "And if you reached into the water to grab it, what would happen?" Genji laughed. "I'd splash the water, and the reflection would break. And I'd come up empty-handed. Everyone knows that. The reflection isn't real." "Ah," the teacher said, "but do you know why you keep reaching for it anyway?" Genji stopped laughing. He looked at the teacher, confused. "What do you mean?" The teacher pointed to the reflection. "That moon in the water, it's beautiful, isn't it? It looks solid, like something you can hold, but it's not. It's just light on water. Yet we spend our lives reaching for things just like it, things that look real, things that promise happiness or peace, but that slip through our fingers the moment we try to grab them. You worry about being a good monk. That's your moon in the water. You think if you meditate enough, or study enough, or do enough good deeds, you'll finally be a good monk. But that idea of a good monk is just a reflection. It's not real. It's just a thought in your head." Genji stared at the water. He thought about all the time he'd spent comparing himself to other monks, how one could meditate for hours without moving, how another could recite sutras from memory, how he felt like he was always falling short. He thought about the way he'd beat himself up for forgetting a prayer, or for getting distracted during meditation, or for feeling angry when a fellow monk borrowed his bowl without asking. He thought about how he'd always been reaching for something, for approval, for wisdom, for a sense of enough, and how he'd always come up empty-handed. "I don't understand," he said. "If the good monk I'm reaching for isn't real, then what is? What should I be reaching for?" The teacher smiled. He picked up a small stone and dropped it into the water. The reflection of the moon rippled, broke into 1,000 tiny pieces, then slowly settled back into place. "You don't need to reach for anything," he said. "You just need to see what's already there. The moon in the sky is real. The water is real. The ripples are real. But the reflection, it's just a product of the two. Yourself, the one that worries, the one that wants to be better, the one that feels like it's not enough. It's not real. It's just a product of your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences. But it's not the whole truth. The whole truth is the you that's watching the reflection, the you that's sitting here, right now, breathing, looking at the moon, feeling the cool night air on your skin. That's the real you. Not the thoughts about being a good monk, not the worries about the future, just this." Genji closed his eyes. He took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't try to control his thoughts. He just let them come and go like ripples in the water. He thought about the way the reflection had broken when the teacher dropped the stone, and how it had settled back. He thought about his own mind, how it got broken by worries or anger, but how it always settled back into calm if he let it. He thought about how he'd been so busy staring at the reflection that he'd forgotten to look at the real moon, the real water, the real him. When he opened his eyes, the reflection was still there, bright, clear, but it didn't pull at him anymore. He didn't feel the urge to reach for it. He just saw it for what it was, light on water, a beautiful illusion. The teacher stood up. He patted Genji's shoulder. "Tomorrow, when you meditate," he said, "and your mind starts to wander to that good monk you want to be, remember the moon in the water. Remember that it's just a reflection. And then come back to the breath. Come back to the water. Come back to what's real." Genji stayed by the lake long after the teacher left. He watched the moon move across the sky, and its reflection move across the water. He watched a fish jump, breaking the reflection, and then watched it mend itself. He felt the tension in his shoulders melt away, the tightness in his chest loosen. For the first time, he didn't feel like he was missing something. He didn't feel like he needed to be someone else. He just felt present, here, alive. The next morning, Genji sat down to meditate. As always, his mind wandered. He thought about the chores he needed to do, about the prayer he'd forgotten yesterday, about whether the teacher was proud of him. But this time, he didn't get frustrated. He just smiled and thought of the moon in the water. "There's that reflection again," he said to himself. And then he came back to his breath in and out. No struggle, no reaching, just being. As the days went by, Genji still had worries. He still forgot prayers. He still felt angry sometimes. But he didn't hold on to those feelings anymore. He saw them for what they were, ripples in the water, reflections of the moon. They came, they went, they didn't change the real him. He started to enjoy the small things, the way the willow leaves looked in the morning sun, the taste of warm tea, the sound of the other monks laughing during dinner. He stopped reaching for enough and started feeling it one day. The teacher asked him, "Genji, do you still worry about being a good monk?" Genji looked at the lake, where the moon's reflection was still shining, even in the daylight. He smiled. "I don't need to be a good monk," he said. "I just need to be me, and that's enough." Now, I want you to think about your own moon in the water. What is it that you're reaching for? Something that looks real, something that promises happiness or peace, but that always slips away. Is it a perfect life, one with no stress, no mistakes, no sadness? Is it the approval of others, thinking that if your friends or family or boss thinks you're good enough, then you'll finally feel good enough? Is it a calm mind, thinking that if you can just stop your thoughts from racing, you'll finally be at peace? Like Genji, you might have spent a long time reaching for these things, chasing the reflection, not the real thing. You might have tried to fix yourself, or your life, or your mind, thinking that if you just do enough, or be enough, or have enough, you'll finally be happy. But the truth is, those things are just reflections. They're not real. They're just thoughts in your head, beautiful, maybe, but not something you can hold on to. The real thing is right here, right now. It's the breath in your lungs. It's the warmth of the bed under you. It's the quiet of the night. It's the you that's watching the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. It's the water, not the moon's reflection. Take a deep breath in now, and when you exhale, imagine reaching into the water to grab the moon. Feel the coolness of the water. See the reflection break. Feel your hand come up empty. Now, imagine letting your hand rest on the surface of the water, instead feeling the ripples, seeing the reflection come back, not trying to grab it, just letting it be. That's what peace feels like. Not grabbing, not chasing, just being with what is. Genj. I learned that peace isn't in being a good monk. It's in being himself, flaws and all, worries and all, messy and imperfect and real. He learned that the things we chase are just reflections, and that the real joy is in the chasing itself, in the breathing, in the looking, in the being. Keep breathing. In and out. Let your body sink deeper into the bed. Let your mind soften, like the water settling after a ripple. The reflection can wait. The chasing can wait. Right now, all you need is what's real, this breath, this moment, this you. That's the 9th key, seeing the reflection for what it is. Letting go of the urge to grab the things that aren't real, and instead resting in what is. Because peace isn't in the moon, in the water. It's in the water. It's in the moon. It's in the you that's lucky enough to see both. Let your breath settle like the calm water of Genji's lake, steady, soft, no longer chasing the ripples of thought. Let that awareness of resting in what is wrap around you like a warm shawl on a cool night. As we turn to our final story, it's a story about patience, about stillness, about the power of just being when the world around you is full of noise. This is the story of Bodhidharma, the same monk who helped Hook find his peace and the 9 years he spent facing a wall. Not to escape the world, but to find it. Long ago, Bodhidharma left his home in India, crossing mountains and oceans to bring the teachings of Zen to China. He traveled for years, walking alone, carrying only a bowl and a staff, his robes worn thin by wind and rain. When he finally reached the Shaolin Temple, a grand, busy place, with hundreds of monks going about their days, chanting, cooking, cleaning, arguing, he hoped to find people ready to learn. But what he found was noise. Not just the noise of voices and footsteps, but the noise of minds, full of questions, full of doubts, full of the need to know and do and be more. The monks asked him to give lectures, to write sutras, to explain the secrets of enlightenment in words they could memorize. But Bodhidharma shook his head. He knew that enlightenment isn't something you learn from words. It's something you feel when you stop talking, stop thinking, stop reaching for answers. So Bodhidharma left the busy temple. He walked to a small cave on the side of Song Mountain, a dark, quiet space with only a stone floor and a rough stone wall. And there he sat down. He crossed his legs, straightened his back, and turned to face the wall. And he stayed there. Not for a day, not for a week, not for a month. For 9 years. 9 years is a long time, long enough for seasons to change: spring flowers blooming, summer storms pouring, autumn leaves falling, winter snow covering the cave entrance. Long enough for the monks from the temple to come and go, curious, confused, sometimes even mocking. They'd peek into the cave, see Bodhidharma sitting there, motionless, staring at the wall, and whisper to each other, "What is he doing?" they'd say. "Is he mad? Why would anyone sit and look at a wall for years?" Some would try to talk to him. They'd ask questions. "What are you thinking about? What are you trying to find? Won't your legs get sore?" But Bodhidharma never answered. He didn't move. He didn't even blink, it seemed. He just sat, facing the wall, his breath slow and steady, like the tide. One winter day, a young monk named Wei Wan ventured up the mountain. He'd heard the stories about the wall-facing monk, and he was determined to get an answer. He stood outside the cave for hours, the snow falling on his shoulders, until his fingers turned blue. Finally, he knocked on the cave wall. "Venerable teacher," he said, his voice shaking from the cold, "I've come to ask you one question. Why do you face the wall? What are you seeking?" Bodhidharma didn't turn around. His voice was low, calm, like the rumble of distant thunder, but soft enough that Wei Wan had to lean in to hear. "I am not seeking anything," he said. "I am just letting go of what I do not need." Wei Wan frowned. "What do you not need?" he asked. "Thoughts," Bodhidharma said. "Doubts. The need to explain. The need to be understood. The wall does not ask questions. It does not judge. It does not need to know why. It just is. And when I face it, I learn to just be, too." Wei Wan stood there, snow melting on his face. He thought about his own life, how he was always rushing, always trying to do more, learn more, be more. How his mind was always racing, even when his body was still. How he'd never just stopped. But isn't sitting and facing a wall a waste of time? He said. Shouldn't you be teaching? Shouldn't you be helping people? Bodhidharma finally turned his head. His eyes were clear, like polished stone, and they looked right into Wei-Wan's heart. Teaching is not in words, he said. It is in example. When I sit here, facing the wall, I am teaching the most important lesson of all, how to be present. The world is full of people who are here, but not here. Their bodies are in one place, but their minds are in the past, or the future, or in the clouds of thought. They miss the sun on their faces. They miss the sound of the wind. They miss the peace that is right in front of them, because they are too busy looking for it elsewhere. He turned back to the wall. This wall is not a barrier, he said. It is a mirror. It shows me what is in my own mind. When my mind is busy, the wall seems busy, full of shadows, full of cracks. When my mind is calm, the wall is calm, just a wall, simple, quiet, perfect as it is. I do not face the wall to escape the world. I face it to find the world, to find the part of it that is quiet, that is still, that is always there, even when the rest is loud. Wei-Wan left the cave that day, his mind quieter than it had ever been. He didn't become a wall-facing monk himself, but he started to practice being present. When he chopped wood, he focused only on the sound of the axe hitting the log. When he drank tea, he focused only on the warmth of the cup in his hands. When he meditated, he focused only on his breath, not on the thoughts that drifted through his mind. And slowly, he found the same peace Bodhidharma had found peace, not in doing, but in being. As the years passed, more people came to the cave. Some stayed for a day, some for a week, some for months. They didn't talk. They just sat beside Bodhidharma, facing the wall, learning to quiet their minds. The cave became a place of peace, not because it was empty, but because the people in it had learned to be empty of the noise that fills most lives. After 9 years, Bodhidharma stood up. His legs were stiff, his body weak, but his mind was clearer than it had ever been. He walked back to the Shaolin Temple, and this time the monks listened, not because he had new words to say, but because he carried a quiet power, the power of someone who had spent years just being, just breathing, just facing the wall. He didn't give long lectures. He didn't write sutras. He just smiled and nodded, and sometimes said, "Sit, breathe, face the wall." And the monks understood, because they saw in him what they wanted for themselves: a mind free from noise, a heart free from worry, a life free from the need to chase now. You might be wondering, what does facing a wall have to do with me, lying here in bed, trying to sleep? You don't need to sit in a cave for 9 years. You don't need to face a wall. But you do need to learn to face your own mind, to stop running from the thoughts that keep you up, to stop trying to fix them or push them away, and just be with them. Like Bodhidharma, you don't need to seek peace. You just need to let go of what's keeping you from it, the noise of "I need to sleep," the worry of "I have to work tomorrow," the regret of "I should have done more today." Your bed is your cave. Your breath is your wall. You don't need to do anything. You just need to sit or lie here and breathe and be present. When a thought comes up, "I'm not tired yet," don't fight it. Don't worry about it. Just say, "Hello, thought, I see you." Then come back to your breath. and out, in and out. When a worry comes up, did I lock the door? Don't jump up to check. Don't let it spiral into what if someone breaks in. Just say, hello, worry. I'll handle you tomorrow. Then come back to your breath. Bodhidharma didn't face the wall to achieve something. He faced it to let go of the need to achieve. He knew that peace isn't a goal. It's a state of being one that's always there, under the noise, under the thoughts, under the worries. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to deserve it. You just have to let yourself feel it. Take a deep breath in now. And when you exhale, imagine yourself sitting in Bodhidharma's cave, quiet, dark, warm. Imagine the wall in front of you not as a cold stone barrier, but as a mirror, showing you your own calm mind. Imagine the snow falling outside, the wind blowing, but inside the cave, you're still, you're present, you're at peace. Bodhidharma's 9 years of facing the wall weren't about the wall. They were about him, about learning to be with himself, about learning to love the quiet, about learning that the most important journey isn't the one you take across mountains and oceans. It's the one you take into your own mind. Keep breathing in and out. Let your body sink deeper into the bed, like Bodhidharma sinking into his stillness. Let your mind soften, like the snow melting in the sun. The thoughts can wait. The worries can wait. The future can wait. Right now, all you need is this breath, this moment, this peace. That's the 10th and final key, being still. Not the stillness of a stone, but the stillness of a mind that knows it doesn't need to chase. The stillness that comes when you stop looking for peace elsewhere and start finding it right here, in your own breath, in your own body, in your own being. Because peace isn't in a cave or a wall or a story. It's in you, always has been, always will be. And just like that, we've walked through all 10 stories each, one a little thread woven into the quiet of this night. Think back, if you want, to the monk with the broken bowl, the thief looking for enlightenment, or Bodhidharma sitting quietly with the wall. None of them had all the answers, but they all knew one thing: peace isn't something we find out there in the noise of the world. It's something we let settle in. When we stop holding so tight to our thoughts, our worries, our need to fix or understand everything tonight. As you let your eyes close, remember that your mind doesn't have to be empty to be calm. It just has to be soft, like the moon on the water or the breath in your lungs. All the things that felt heavy today, they can wait. Right now, you're here and you're safe and you're allowed to rest. Let the words of these stories fade like distant bells, and let your body sink deeper into whatever's holding your bed, your chair, the quiet of the night. May your sleep be gentle, and may your mind wake tomorrow as light as a feather.